Dalton Deputy Police Chief facing new lawsuit over overtime pay. He did a deal where he approved overtime for himself, even though he wasn't eligible for overtime pay as a salaried employee of the Village of Dalton. So Village of Dalton is suing him. Let's get into it. Here we go.
We have an outstanding, and I do mean outstanding, police department.
Dalton's acting police chief, Lacey, now being sued by the village for overtime they say he paid himself but was never eligible to receive. The lawsuit alleges between August of last year and July of this year, Lacey submitted and approved nearly $140,000 in overtime for himself, even though he's a salaried employee, not entitled to OT. The village also fired him last week.
The meeting will be shut down.
Often seen calling for order during Dalton's fiery board meetings and even ordering members of the public to leave, Lacey is a close ally of Mayor Tiffany Henyard and insists only the mayor has the power to terminate his employment. He pleaded not guilty Thursday to federal charges of bankruptcy fraud and perjury and was ordered to hand over his guns. His attorney believes prosecutors are using the charges to get him to turn on Henyard in their investigation into her spending.
One way that the government always does it is to go and investigate people around her, and that's what they're doing here.
They also indicted Henyard's top aide, Keith Freeman, on a bankruptcy fraud charge earlier this year. Trustees say Freeman is doing his job as village administrator. As Henyard called a mandatory meeting for police on Thursday, Freeman replied, Lacey is no longer employed by the Village of Dalton.
Are you in charge? Who's in charge?
Silence and a smile for WGN Investigates Ben Bradley as Lacey went into that meeting, but video from inside reveals his answer.
Do what you want, but anything after this is insubordination.
His job in dispute, and now so is the money he was paid to do it.
Show me the money that I approved for myself, for my own overtime, even though I'm not eligible for overtime. Anyway, that's what we're doing in Dalton. Lacey, the acting police chief, deputy police chief in South Suburban Dalton, facing a new lawsuit over tens of thousands in overtime pay. Lacey is being sued by the Village of Dalton for overtime that they say he paid himself, but wasn't eligible to receive. So between August of 2023 and July of 2024, Lacey submitted and approved nearly $140,000. Even though he's salaried. Yeah. Well, you know what? I need a little bit more money, even though I'm impersonating Lacey now. I need a little bit more money because I've got this other outstanding lawsuit that I've paid a little bit on, but not that much. And I'm trying to get all my debts discharged by bankruptcy, but it's difficult to tell the truth when you're responding to governmental questionnaires about what your income is and what your assets are and if your wife's living with you. These are all issues that Chief Lacey has undertaken, and we've talked about them here. So now on top of this, he's got a lawsuit from the village stating he took money that wasn't his. Shocking. Lacey was also facing a federal bankruptcy fraud charge, along with Keith Freeman facing a federal bankruptcy fraud charge. But Keith Freeman is still employed by the village because he knows what's the deal is. He's been with the village and he is actually cooperating now. So Chief Lacey, he was terminated during a meeting last week. And then he just showed up to work the next day. Everything's good. Everything's fine. I'm still here. And then he calls this emergency meeting, and Keith Freeman sent out the email saying, no, he's not employed by us. So you have got just this gyration of information and power struggle going on in the Village of Dalton. It's nuts. Often seen calling for order during Dalton's fiery board meetings and even ordering members of the public to leave, Lacey is a close ally of Mayor Tiffany Henyard and insists only the mayor has the power to terminate his employment. I don't believe that is legally correct. That's just not the way municipalities operate, right? You've got a board to make collective decisions with a majority vote, right? I mean, that's just how these things operate. On Thursday, Lacey pleaded not guilty to federal charges. Okay, yep. Ordered to hand over his guns. His attorney said, what if something bad happens to him on the street? What will happen with his guns? Well, yeah, I'm sure he's got more guns. Were those were just the guns that were purchased by the village entity or whatever, right? His personal guns he can still keep? I don't know. Lacey's attorney believes prosecutors are using the charges to get him to turn on Henyard during their ongoing investigation into her spending. Yeah, but you've got enough things going on with Chief Lacey here. And Chief Lacey he's put himself in the line of fire from the standpoint of he is running around these meetings and basically being Tiff, the super mayor, the dictator of Dalton's henchman. He's one of her henchmen, and he gets done what the super mayor wants done. So without him to have out in front of her, basically doing her bidding, yeah, Tiff just, she's going to lose her, bulldog, right? She's going to lose her bulldog. And so Lacey's attorney is like, they're going after my client because of her, Tiff. No, they're going after your client because he's breaking the law separately, in addition to what Tiff is doing. One way that the government always does is to go and investigate people. Yeah, that's true. But your client has broken the law on his own. And this case here, the whole not bankruptcy, the overtime, I mean, that's kind of a big deal when you're millions of dollars upside down and your own police chief just gave himself some, I'm up for a little OT. Who's not up for OT? I'm working it. I am working it here. Well, yeah, but the problem is that your contract didn't indicate you were up for overtime because you're a salaried employee. So there's that, right? How's that going to work? They're going to settle. They will settle. They will not go to trial. There's no way they're going to trial. They're going to settle. Chief Lacey, former Chief Lacey, whatever he is now, he will owe more and more money. He will owe more and more money. Just his debts continue to stack up because he is not getting that bankruptcy. He's Chief Lacey, former Chief Lacey, whatever he is. He has declared bankruptcy somewhere between 7 and 9 times since the 1980s. I've seen other YouTubers indicate 9 times. I've seen 7. I've counted 8, but then I couldn't verify exactly. Okay, is this 8th one? Don't really know, right? In excess of 7 would not be unreasonable. Let's just say that. Henyard's top aide, village administrator Keith Freeman, was also indicted on bankruptcy fraud charges earlier this year. He had this deal where he didn't say that he was working for the other entity. He was working for Dalton, but not the Village of Thornton. Yep. And they caught him. And so he's indicted on a bankruptcy fraud charge earlier this year. Interesting that within a fairly small village and it's a big township for Chicago. I think it's the biggest township in Chicago, but you're not talking, enormous, the Village of Dalton and township of Thornton. You're not talking huge, but they got 2 people that are fairly high, fairly significant within the overall structure of how the Village of Dalton works and how Township of Thornton works, that are on bankruptcy indictment charges for not declaring income and trying to bamboozle the court system, trying to bamboozle and hoodwink the judges. Hey, yeah, about this other income you guys have. And by you guys, I mean both Freeman and Lacey. Trustees said Freeman is doing his job as village administrator. Okay, but it is odd why they're keeping Keith Freeman on. I mean, I understand he knows where the bodies are buried. He understands the inner workings of the village. But do you want a guy that is, he has worked so hard to basically, he was on Tiff's side for so long. So, I mean, they've got to just have him over the barrel, don't you think? Because otherwise, why wouldn't they just fire him and bring in somebody new that's competent, that didn't screw the village this whole past time when he was not working with the village and he was basically just doing what Tiff's bidding was? The difference is, this is what Pisetsky, he is Lacey's attorney. The difference is that Mr. Lacey is not guilty. Well, you're going to have a hard time convincing me of that if indeed his employment with the village didn't allow him to get overtime. So how did he give himself overtime? And how did the village approve this? Hey, got a lot of money going out here. At what point in time did the village, they must have known this for literally years now coming, because reports had the required reports by the Village of Dalton have not been submitted since 2021. This is ongoing, and you've got all these charges. They would see the paychecks going out. They would see the automatic deposits on the accounts going, hey, is Chief Lacey, is he okay to give himself overtime? Oh, yeah. It's just what we do here at Village of Dalton. Something like that had to go down, right? Early on. Oh, yeah. His contract mainly says that he's eligible. No. Pisetsky added that he believes that Freeman has admitted his guilt because he thinks that Freeman is cooperating with investigators. I would probably say that is correct. Some type of agreement has happened with Freeman and Village of Dalton. Because otherwise, why is he all of a sudden, he's a saint, he's a choir boy, he's going down the right road, he's on the path to redemption? Nah, they got him bent over a barrel, and he's just like, Keith, this is what you're going to be doing. Keith, this is the information you're going to give us. Keith, yo, we need info from you. All right, what do you need? Prior to a mandatory meeting for police called by Henyard on Thursday, Freeman sent an email telling officers that Lacey was no longer employed by the village, adding that he was not allowed in any spaces reserved for employees, should be without an escort. He's got to have an escort if he's in the village communal spaces, because he's no longer there and he's fired. He was fired with prejudice, right? And then Lacey comes in and says, nope, not fired. Tiff's the only one that can fire me. And he just rolls into work. And the whole thing is just so convoluted because of this massive, massive power struggle, right? When WG Investigates attempted to speak with Henyard and Lacey before Thursday's meeting, the two circled the police station to avoid questions. They just drove around. Video captured during the meeting revealed Lacey's answer. Do what you want, but anything after this is insubordination. That was during one of the trustees kind of secretly recorded that footage. Do what you want, but anything after this is insubordination if you don't do what I'm saying. But what's interesting is at the point where Lacey said this, he was fired. He was not a village employee. He was not the police chief, and he was still not eligible for overtime. Allegedly. Pisetsky, Lacey's attorney, called the lawsuit frivolous and baseless. Okay, yeah, but based on what? Why are you saying that? If his contract states that he's eligible for OT, why don't you just hand that out and go, yep, there it is? Because he doesn't have a contract that states that. He's not eligible for OT. But hey, maybe we can hoodwink and bamboozle the constituents of said Village of Dalton and jam this OT down their throat, and they won't notice. Yeah, maybe they just won't notice. It all comes just over a week after a highly anticipated presentation on Dalton finances by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, where it was revealed that Lacey had received more than $200,000 in overtime pay over the last 4 fiscal years. Yeah. Okay. $217,000, I believe it is. $217,000 that he was not eligible for, but that he received anyway. Yeah. This is just one more layer of ridiculousness in Dalton. Now, I think the residents know that every which way that they look, their books are absolutely cooked. Stick a fork in it, it's done kind of cooked. So now it's just damage control. And this lawsuit is one of those damage control pieces. All right. In order to get that money back, here's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to spend a bunch of money on attorneys. We're going to have to go into the court system, and we're going to have to basically sue Chief Lacey, former Deputy Chief Lacey, whatever he is, to whomever. Chief Lacey is in a world of hurt because not only is he not going to get that other prior debt discharged, he's going to be on the hook for this. And who knows? So the drama in Dalton continues. Yeah. I mean, you're going to have issues like this pop up all over because now the village is like, all right, we know what's going on, kind of per that Lori Lightfoot report. Now we got to go do something. Now we got to start trying to take some of our money back. And the only way you're going to do that is with lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, because so much of this money is just gone and spent, right? It's just gone. Boom, it's gone. So what'll happen? You'll just have a whole bunch of lawsuits. You'll have Tiff probably get arrested. You'll have criminal cases popping up. You'll have all kinds of stuff like this. This is just the tip of the iceberg, allegedly, if you believe all the other information that's hanging out there as well. All right. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. I'd love to have you subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button. Hit the notification bell because we drop videos every single day. Love to have you watch them, get notified, and I'll catch up with you in the next episode. Bye for now.